Good morning, students. Welcome to Christ College Autonomous Audit course for the degree students, Human Rights. Today, we are going to discuss with the fifth module, Human Rights in India. For convenience, we divide this module into the four parts: historical background, Indian Constitution and human rights, agencies for protecting human rights, and the last one, the important human rights movement in India. Today, I am going to discuss with historical background of human rights in India. As we know that the concept of human rights, especially the modern concept which developed in the late 18th century Europe, especially in the background of Enlightenment movement there. So this concept later spread to various European colonies through the colonial powers. From our Indian perspective, this movement reached, this concept reached in the early 19th century through the new rulers, the British. Because the British were just like other Western European, British were influenced by this Enlightenment movement and the various Enlightenment thinkers. It created major shift in the way they look towards the world and the human beings. So, as we know that in the early part of British rule, especially the British established their rule in Bengal later, the power spread to the different parts of Indian subcontinent. Then especially this Bengali upper class, they were influenced by British rulers. So they got English education, they attended various colleges, and through their new rulers, they got the new ideas. That new ideas were completely new to them. So most of them, just like people such as Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar or Raja Ram Mohan Roy, they were really influenced by that. They really got inspired by that. It helped them to understand, what kind of introspection. It helped them to understand the mistakes in the existing, the Indian culture, especially the Hindu religion and various Hindu tradition. It under the light of enlightenment, enlightenment ideas. These, the existing Hindu rituals and traditions were like unscientific, or maybe it doesn't make much sense for the new thinkers, for new Indian thinkers. So naturally, they, persuaded British rulers to make new acts and new laws. So, as by the result of that, what British rulers did, the 19th century. The colonial India and the early 20th century witnessed so many acts by the British government. There are some examples like abolition of sati in 1829, abolition of slavery in 1843, the introduction of widow remarriage in 1856. It was a big deal in those days. Doesn't make much sense now in the 21st century, but it was a big deal in those days. Abolition of female infanticide. Abolition of female infanticide means the abolition of killing of female child. Then 1870, then the prohibition of child marriage. Child marriage was pretty common among the various Indian communities in those days. So this prohibition of child marriage, it became a law in 1929. These were the result of the enlightenment-based ideas which influenced Indian intellectuals. So they persuaded British rulers to make changes. Then we go to the next part in the sense next development, further developments. As we know that in the late 19th century witnessed a major political development in Indian history, the formation of Indian National Congress. For the first 25 to 30 years of the existence of Congress, it was primarily a Western educated, Western educated upper class Indian led movement. But those upper class people were also influenced by Western ideas, because they all studied in they got their education from British universities. So they got that exposure towards the contemporary, the new enlightened British society which existed in London in those days. So they, after the coming here, they got an idea that the way the British rule in Britain is completely different from the way they rule in India. So they demanded British government, lots of several concessions. When concessions in the sense, certain liberties on the basis of these enlightenment ideas. So Indian National Congress passed several resolutions between 1917 and 1919. It's basically touch upon various political rights, because that's a demand from the middle class and upper middle class or upper class Indians of those days, especially the English educated one. There are certain some common demands like a right to equality before law. Then there another one, the free speech in the sense of political speech. Then the trial by jury composed at least half of Indian members, because most of the juries or judges were of European origin then, but prisoners were, or convicts were, or the political prisoners were of Indian origin. So the Congress leaders demand that, or Congress people demand that the European judges were not, they were not maybe like a respect, or they were not appreciate Indian sentiments. So they may not understand Indian culture, Indian sentiments at all. So that jury should be at least half of them should be Indians, because by early 20th century, they were qualified Indian jurists. This is one of the demand. Then another demand, they demanded more political power, just like in Britain. More political power, just like in Britain or other white colonies ruled by Britain. Then again, equal terms for bearing arms as British citizens, because British, especially the white citizens had, or white citizens of India in those days had right to carry weapons for their self-protection, but Indians did not have right to carry the weapons, because it's very difficult to carry weapons in those days, because it's very difficult to get permission from government to carry weapons. So what Congress leaders demanded, that there is no partiality there, because again this demand maybe look funny or sarcastic in present scenario. It doesn't make much sense in present scenario, but in early 20th century it's kind of a privilege, it's kind of a right, because they demanded that there is no discrimination between British and Indian in this scenario. So Congress demanded equal terms for bearing arms, just as British citizens. Then now we go to the next. We can consider it as a McNugget of Indian human right, or the Bible of Indian human right. The Commonwealth of India Bill. That bill was drafted by. It's considered as a McNugget or backbone of Indian human rights. Okay, these are the rights. This Commonwealth of India Bill, it includes 7 fundamental rights. This bill was drafted by one lady known as Annie Besant. She is of Irish origin. She was ex-Congress president. She led, she chaired the Congress session of 1970. Later, she drafted, the Commonwealth of India Bill in 1925. This Besant bill, there are 7 fundamental rights. It includes 7 fundamental rights. We have to understand this is the basis of, this is the backbone of, this is the benchmark of the fundamental right of India, fundamental human rights of India. These are let's see what are those. One, individual liberty. Another one, the freedom of conscience. Third one, expression of opinion, free expression of opinion. The fourth one, freedom of assembly. The fifth one, non-discrimination on the ground of sex. Non-discrimination on the ground of sex. The sixth one, the free elementary education. And the seventh one, free use of public spaces. Because this, those 7 the rights enshrined in this Commonwealth of India Bill, later known as the fundamental right. These 7 rights is phenomenal or revolutionary even in those time, even Western standard. So again it's influenced by the various ideas of United States and the Western Europe. So it's quite phenomenal in those days, but it drafted by Annie Besant, later it became basis of human rights of the independent India as concerned, like Indian Constitution as concerned. Human rights enshrined in, fundamental rights enshrined in Indian Constitution, which made after India's independence in 1947. This is another. Then now next we move to another one of the important event, or the milestone which happened during the Karachi session of Indian National Congress in 1931. As you know, Karachi is now part of Pakistan, but then it was part of undivided India, just like Bombay. It's another major port city of western part of the Indian subcontinent. In the Karachi resolution was quite eventful, meeting of Congress in 1931. But that particular Karachi resolution, remember, for the one particular thing, the formulation of fundamental rights, it's become part of Indian Constitution, which made after 17 or 18 years after. This Karachi resolution was again, especially that fundamental rights part was really made by Jawaharlal Nehru. See, there are, because this particular resolution reflect, the position of fundamental right in Indian Constitution. I mean, the independent Indian Constitution, it carry over the most of the thing. This fundamental right, like this resolution defined Besant's, 7 fundamental right. Beside that, it also, beside the 7 fundamental right, this resolution, further expanded to the concern about some more rights related with, these are not fundamental right, but this right related with the socio-economic thing. For example, the living wage for industrial workers. I mean, here industrial workers mean the factory workers. Like living wage, again the limited hours of labor, healthy conditions of work, protection against the economic consequence of old age. It's all related with the factory, the factory workers. Laws related with the points related with demands related with the the farms, like labor to be free from serfdom, because there were so many workers, so many peasants were serfs because they were very big zamindars in those days. So protecting their right. Then another very a phenomenal revolutionary the act, like protection of women workers. Protection of women workers, especially the maternity related things. Then prohibition again is the employment of children of school going age in factories. It's like child labor. It's against child labor. Then finally, rights for labor to form union for protecting their rights, or for for protecting their rights, or for what can I say, bargaining for whatever it is, for protecting their interest. It's again related to the factory. So the Karachi resolution, justified the fundamental right. It accepted those fundamental rights put forward by Commonwealth of India Bill, which was drafted by Annie Besant in 1925. Besides that, those Karachi resolution added further rights related with the the various socio-economic things, especially the farms and factories. So we have seen here the laws related with the women workers, children, the law against child labor. So these all these points become part of the future Indian Constitution, because these things framed by Nehru, these are regarded, even in those days, it's like a very revolutionary thing. Okay, not at present it's all like universally accepted theories, but in those days these points were quite revolutionary, because exploitation was more. Then UN accepted it, but even much before India's independence, this become a law. This become this point made in Karachi resolution, but later Indian government included it as part of fundamental rights of Indian citizen. So it's better, I think, I stop today's class here. In the next class we are going to discuss Indian Constitution and human rights. But what is for human rights in Indian Constitution? Because it's just continuation of the same thing. But in the next class we are moving to not the colonial India, we are moving to post-independent India. So thanks for your patience, thanks for your cooperation. Then I stop. I'm signing off here. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.